subscribe and share to this channel and do all the videos. This is a pretty comprehensive, very insightful channel to watch. Okay, so who are Harry Potter's grandparents and what happened to them? Why aren't they ever shown, or what's the deal with them? So first of all, this is going to deal with a few different aspects. So we know that James Potter was a pure blood wizard. His parents were both wizards, and his parents were very rich wizards. They had a lot of money, a lot of wealth, and so that's why James Potter chose not to work. Now, as for Lily Potter, who was originally Lily Evans, so Lily Evans Potter's parents were Muggles, and I don't think we really know much about them. The only thing we really heard about them is that they were Muggles, and when their daughter Lily got to be a wizard, when their daughter Lily got into Hogwarts, then they were very happy and very proud of her, which made Lily's sister Petunia very jealous and angry. Now, what happened to them? And frankly, that's the question that's not really ever addressed. And I think it's partially because, actually, in main part, due to the fact that J.K. Rowling just glossed over it and didn't talk about it much, and maybe she didn't find it important. Perhaps she forgot to talk about it. Who knows? So this brings us to the point. When Lily and James Potter were killed, Harry was given to Lily's sister Petunia and her husband Vernon. Now, obviously, Harry had a miserable life because Vernon and Petunia and Dudley severely mistreated him, and it was just horrible. But the reason that he was given to Lily's sister Petunia, the awful person, was because Lily had made the sacrifice, and Harry would only be protected if he was kept with someone who shared his mother's blood, in other words, his mother's relative. So, but then why couldn't Dumbledore have just given Harry over to his grandparents, Lily's parents? Like, they would have treated him better than Petunia. So that's a question that I have. Now, of course, this also addresses why Harry wasn't given to his dad's parents, to the Potters. Yeah, he wasn't given to his grandparents, the Potters, because they don't share actual blood with Lily, and so that wouldn't be able to protect him. And maybe having him in a wizarding home would also have other ramifications. So Dumbledore does say that he wants Harry to grow up without knowing who he is, because all that fame and all the attention is enough to turn a boy's head and make him a little crazy, whether that's because he turns into someone who's stuck up and full of himself, a total narcissist, or maybe it just ruins his life and he feels miserable his whole life. So Dumbledore wanted to protect Harry from all that attention and fame. And so having Harry raised by a Muggle family would keep him shielded from all the wizarding media attention. Whereas I'm sure his grandparents, the Potters, would have treated him very well, but I doubt that they would have been able to protect him from all the attention. Although they were very rich, so there's that too. Now, what happened to Harry's grandparents? So for James's parents, Harry's grandparents on his dad's side, they were already pretty old, and it's stated a few times in Harry Potter that James's parents were much older, and they were pretty up there, and wizards do live longer. Like, I think Dumbledore was 114 or something, but it's possible that James's parents just died of old age or got really sick, and perhaps they died before the night at Godric's hollow, or maybe they died while Harry was being raised by Petunia and Vernon, or maybe they got really sick, or maybe they just something happened to them. Whatever the case is, like there's a lot of possibilities, and there's a lot of wizarding diseases in the wizarding world as well, and so maybe they could have succumbed to some of those diseases and passed away. So my guess, I'm going to theorize that Harry's grandparents on his dad's side were not even alive by the time that Harry was born. I'm just going to guess that maybe they passed away of old age or something. Of course, also possible that the Death Eaters got to them, but then I think that's something that would have definitely been mentioned in the series because that would be important, right? And as for Lily's parents, it's possible that perhaps the Death Eaters got to them, but like I said, that would be an important piece of information that would have definitely been covered. So I doubt that. And another possibility is that perhaps Lily's parents might have succumbed to Muggle diseases. Maybe perhaps they had heart attacks, cancer, stroke, um, aneurysms, diabetes. Maybe they succumbed to the natural causes, or maybe there was a car accident or shooting, or whatever the case is. Like maybe something happened to them before the events of Voldemort killing Harry's parents. So maybe they were already dead by that point. And another possibility that I find possible is that maybe Harry's parents on his mom's side, even though they were younger, maybe they developed early onset Alzheimer's, and they just weren't able to take care of Harry because of that reason, and so Dumbledore sent him to Petunia for that reason. Because and I just have to think that whatever the case is, I'm sure that one of my theories here is probably likely, because whatever the case is, I think that Dumbledore definitely knew what Petunia was going to be like to Harry, and so if he had a choice, if Lily had other blood relatives, he would have definitely sent Harry to them and not to Petunia. So I would have to think that Lily's parents were not around by that point. And of course, maybe Lily and Petunia didn't have contact with their parents, but then Dumbledore would still have been able to find them. So I don't get that either. So yeah, I just have to think that Lily's James's parents probably were just very old and gone by that point, and maybe Lily's parents, something had happened to them and they just weren't there and able to take care of Harry by that point. And a new theory that I have about Lily Potter's parents is that yeah, Lily James is an actress who is not involved with Harry Potter. Yeah, I just got Lily and James. Yeah, but anyway, what happened? I have another theory for Lily Potter, and so it's possible that maybe Lily Potter and Petunia Dursley, Lily and Petunia Evans, it's possible that those two girls, even though they were blood sisters, maybe they were adopted by their parents. So what I mean by that is maybe Lily and Petunia lost their natural parents somehow at a very young age, and so they were adopted by other people, and so the people who raised them obviously became their parents, and so maybe Lily and Petunia just didn't share an actual blood. They were not an actual blood relation of their parents. Like maybe they just didn't have a real blood relationship with their parents because they were adopted. So if Lily and Petunia were adopted, then that would mean that Lily shares blood with Petunia, and so her sacrifice would protect Harry if Harry's living with Petunia. But if Lily's parents are not her biological parents, if they're her adoptive parents, then they don't share blood with her. So if Harry's with them, then the sacrifice does no good and it doesn't protect him. So another theory that I have is that perhaps Lily and Petunia were adopted by their parents, and their parents were not even their biological parents, and that's why Dumbledore didn't leave Harry with them. But it's also worth noting that I don't think Harry ever met his grandparents. He definitely didn't meet his dad's parents. And like I said, they were very old and gone by that point. And it doesn't seem like he ever met Lily's parents either. So I'm going to assume that something happened to all of them, or perhaps with Lily's parents, there's also the theory of maybe cognitive decline, or possibly the, like I said, maybe they weren't her biological parents. But in all honesty, I just think that this is just something that J.K. Rowling glossed over, either intentionally or unintentionally, and just forgot to talk about, or maybe didn't think it was important, or just wrote the plot the way she did because she wanted to. So that's really what I have for this. So subscribe, share, and view. This channel is very great.